Okay guys, so in this video we are going to continue on with quartiles, and now we're going to add two more values, and that is our minimum value and our maximum value along with our quartiles. And the whole thing that we're going to try to do is to construct a box plot. Now a box plot is basically, I drew it down here, right? Usually there's a number line down here and it tells you, like, I don't know, like you can have a 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way on, 10, 11, 12, continues on, right? And basically what it does, it gives you some sort of visual representation of all of the data. That's not a histogram, that's not a pie chart, that's not anything else like that, okay? So basically a box plot is just a visual representation of all data points, including the points far to the left or far to the right. So the way that you draw a box plot, right, you start off with the minimum value. So this is where we end our box plot. Our maximum value is all the way at the end, right? Our first quartile is the value that starts off our box, and our third quartile is the one that ends the box. The median is going to be somewhere in between the first quartile or the third quartile, depending on where it's at, right? So if my median was like 5, for example, then the median will have to go over here. So it really depends. Okay. All right. Now, the thing is, what happens if I had data that looked like this, like 2, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, 7, right? Something that looked like that. Then all of my data lies between 2 all the way to maybe 7. Okay, this is really horrible. But anyways, but let's say if I had a number of 100, an extreme value. Well, in order for me to get this data value, right? Well, my maximum value is no longer the 7. Now it's going to go all the way out, right? So you're going to have this long hinge, right? So we don't quite want that, because what happens is that I don't know, the box plot just doesn't look as nice. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to modify our box plot. And how are we going to modify it? The way that we modify it is by not including the outliers and instead having some sort of lower bound. So this is going to be my lower bound, and having an upper bound, and anything that lies outside of my lower and upper bound is what we're going to call an outlier. Okay. Now, how do we know what my upper bound or lower bound is? Well, I'm going to go ahead and define something else, which is called my interquartile range, right? And what my interquartile range is just a measure of variation, right? So because what I'm doing is I'm subtracting Q3 from Q1. So based on this box plot, right, this must have been Q1, this must have been Q3, and here's Q2, of course. So the difference between Q3 and Q1 is what we call my interquartile range. That's all I do. I just subtract them. So my ending box and then my starting part of the box is what I'm going to subtract. So basically, the length of this box is my interquartile range. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Q3 and I'm going to add the interquartile range. So the range between Q3 and Q1, I'm going to add it to Q3, right? So we're going to add it. And then what I'm going to do, so it's kind of like I added an extra box, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to add 0.5 of it. So a little more than 1. So a little bit more than half of the box. So I'm going to add that. And that is going to give me my first upper bound or my upper fence. And I'm going to do the same thing with Q1. Q1, I'm going to subtract by the interquartile range, which is 1 times the interquartile range, and then the 0.5, right? So I do this extra 0.5. So basically in total, I'm adding and subtracting 1.5 times the interquartile range to both the Q3 and the Q1. Now, why is it 1.5? Well, conventionally, that's what we've been using a lot. 1.5 can be different, but we believe that that's about a good estimator of where our outliers are going to be. So this is basically something that you definitely want to know, especially because in an exam, I will tell you to construct a box plot. And this is something that you really want to be able to know. Oh, okay. I hope you guys didn't hear that, but that's my cat. Okay. So let's do a problem. Okay. So here is my data. Okay, so I give you some data. I don't know what this data is for. I don't know, it could be heights again. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to use this data to find the 5-number summary. Okay, so remember, let's go back. What is the 5-number summary? Well, I need to figure out what the minimum, the first, the second, the third, and the maximum value are. Okay, so I'm going to first put them in order, right? Because I need to make sure that it goes from lowest to highest. Now, one thing that I can do is just go ahead and use my calculator and try to calculate it that way, but I'm not going to do it, and you'll see why right now. Okay, so I'm going to first go ahead and put this in order. So my lowest number seems to be 22, right? So I'm going to start off with 22. Then after that is a 25, right? Okay, 25. Okay. Then 34, so I'm going to get rid of the 34. Then after that is a 35. Okay, then 2 41s it seems. So 2 different 41s. Then we have a 46 and another 46. I'm going to get rid of the 46s. A 49. Okay, oh no. Whoops. We're missing one number, not the 49 yet. We're gonna do the 47 because there's a 47 here. Then the 49, okay. And then what is left? We just left with the 54, a 54, okay, and a 59, and then 87, okay. 54, 54, 59, and 87. Okay, so we basically got all of our numbers in order. Now, if we just look at them, it seems kind of that this 87 is probably going to be an outlier because it seems that it's very outside of what the normal will be. But I mean, also the 22 and the 25 could also be kind of an outlier because it's kind of far away from everything else, but we don't know. We got to go ahead and do it. So now the minimum value is really easy, right? X min is just this one. So this is X min. It's just 22. So that's really easy. Okay. The maximum value, we know what that one is too. The max value is going to be 87. Okay. Okay. Excuse my lack of whatever. Okay. Anyways. Okay, now let's go ahead and figure out where my median is. Now my median, right, there's 14 numbers, so it's going to be somewhere around here, right? So my median is a number between here and here, which in this case, well, the number in between those is just 46, so Q2 is going to be 46. Now in the previous video, what we did is there was a middle number, and what we did is we excluded that middle number, right, and we find the median. And the medians of the bottom half and the top half. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use this 46, right, to be part of the bottom half, and this other 46 to be part of the top half. And then I'm going to find the median again. Okay, so here it seems that our median now is going to be this 35, right, because there's 3 below and 3 above, right? So this means this is Q1. My Q1 is 35. And then here it seems that my 54 is going to be my Q3. Okay, all right, that's what we get. So there is the 5-number summary. Okay, so we're done with that. Okay, so now we know X min 22, 35, 46, 54, and 87. Okay, all right, now what we want to do is we want to find the upper and lower fence. Okay, so how are we going to do this? So remember, if we go back up, where's my cursor? Okay, here it is. If I look back up, my lower fence is just Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR, and the upper fence is Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR, okay? So first, let's try to figure out what this IQR thing is. So IQR, because I need to know what that is Q3 minus Q1, right? So this is 54 minus 35, okay? This just gives me what, 19, okay? So now I'm going to figure out what the lower fence is. The lower fence is going to be Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. And then Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. Let me use a different marker. Okay. So Q1 in this case was 35 minus 1.5 times IQR, which is 19. I put this in my handy dandy calculator and I get 6.5. So this is my lower fence. This is where it starts. Okay, now where it ends is going to be 54 because that's Q3, plus 1.5 times 19. Whoops. This is going to give me 82.5. Okay, so this is where we have. So we have from 6.5 to 82.5. Okay, so now let's go here. Are there any outliers? Well, if my range is between 6.5 all the way to 82.5, well, anything above 82.5 and anything below 6.5 will be an outlier. And in this case, it does seem like there's an outlier. This 87 is clearly an outlier because it's outside of my range. So 87 is an outlier. So yes. Okay. Now my next step, or my last part D, construct a modified box plot of the data. So this is how we're going to go ahead and do the box plot. The first thing that you want to do is start with the quartiles. Okay, so Q1 was 35, right? So I'm going to look for 35. So 35 is around here. So that's where my beginning of the box is going to be. Q3 is 54. So 54 is around here. So that is where my box is going to end. Okay, so I have a pretty little box here that looks kind of crooked. My median was what? What was my median? I forgot what my median was. Was it 46? Yes. So 46 is around here. So I'm just going to make a rough estimate that 46 is right here. So here's Q1, Q2, and Q3. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use a different color. You don't need to do this in the exam, but it would be really good as a reference. So normally we don't write the hinges, the lower fence and the upper fence. We don't go ahead and put them down on a box plot, but I'm going to go ahead and do it just for reference. I'm going to put it in a different color. So my lower fence is 6.5. So 6.5 is around here. All right. So I'm going to say this is my lower fence. Okay. So if you go outside of this fence, right, then you are an outlier. And then my upper fence is 82.5. So 82.5 is around, oh, whoa, it's around here. My numbers are kind of messed up. Okay, so 82.5 is around here. Okay, so now what are we gonna do? Okay, now let's go ahead and graph the outliers first. Okay, because the outliers are gonna be put as what? So if you go back to the definition of a modified box plot, the outliers are just represented as points. Okay, so I'm gonna put the outlier. So the outlier in this case was 87. Okay, so 87 is gonna be somewhere around right here, right? So here's my outlier. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, now I need to do two things: my minimum value and my maximum value. Because right, remember we did 5-number summary, right? We already got the quartiles. The only thing that we gotta do is now put in my minimum value and my maximum value. Oh, but my maximum value was my outlier. So what is now my new maximum value? Well, my new maximum value is now going to be the next good number, which in this case is going to be this 59. So the 59 is going to be my next good number. Okay, so 59 is around here. So my 59 is here. So that is where 59 is at. Here's 59. My minimum value in this case is, if I go back up, my minimum value is 22. So 22 is around here. And that is my minimum value. Okay, now that's the reason why I decided to go ahead and do it by hand, because in the calculator, if you do have outliers, you will not know what the next good value is. Okay, or you have to go ahead and try to figure it out, which you can, but this is something that I would just go ahead and do. Do it from the very beginning, right? Just do it by hand, calculate whatever your 5-number summary is. Find your lower and upper fence, right? And notice this if there's any outliers. And then in the end, you can construct this beautiful picture. Okay, sorry, I went a little bit longer than what I wanted. But that's basically how you construct a modified box plot.